to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is a dear friend and sister. Uh, Her name is Monica King. Monica is a medicine woman, a certified holistic body worker, a mother of two children, and an advocate for children. Monica, welcome on.
Hey, what's up? So good to see you.
It's great to see you too. I'm super excited for this podcast, and Monica was part of my ayahuasca journey, and that'll be one of the things I think we'll talk about today. And some of the other topics we may talk about is Monica's awakening journey, star children, and navigating the world around them, shadow work, holistic body work, sound healing, divorce and the journey of forgiveness, and listening to the sacred yes and intuition. So,
Mm.
Monica, we would love to hear about how it all started for you, how the awakening journey all evolved for you.
Ooh, amazing. Well, I guess we'll just go in swinging. So, yeah, I'll start back. I mean, because I like to always give a little bit of context to what led up to, the awakening and the journey and finding my path and all of it. I mean, all of it is connected, but it really starts back, from childhood for everyone, really. But yeah, I want to speak first to both of my parents and say that I love them very much, that they are incredible human beings, and I would not be where I am without them. And that, you know, I understand now as an adult, which I didn't understand as a child, right? When you're a child, you're just kind of in it,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
when you're an adult, you can kind of have that bird's eye view and understand that they were really just doing the best that they could given where they were coming from, right? I mean, it goes generation after generation after generation. And I really feel like right now, a lot of our generation are being called to break those curses, those traumas, the generational things. And
big
that's
time.
what I'm doing here. Yeah. So it goes way back. And so without like sounding like I'm throwing my parents under the bus, but it was a less than nurturing environment to grow up in.
Hmm.
My mother, we come from my whole entire family really like alcoholics, addicts, that kind of thing. My mother and father were right there too. Um, so it was a lot as a child to grow up in that environment, and then to have all the real life things on top of that. My nervous system was super shot. I had lifelong insomnia. I mean, I just remember laying there as a child and just like watching the moon like completely go, and just
Oh,
struggling in school after with that, and not really knowing what else to do, and then following lead as I got into my adult life and started drinking, started doing drugs, and like, ooh, that was nice, like nice to not feel, yeah, right. Like numbing is where the path that I was on, and I it was actually the day that I found out that I was pregnant with my
mm,
first son. My entire life shifted. I felt every like cell in my body was just like, whoa, wait a minute. I had to really, it felt like there was an actual shift in the universe when I read that test. And I was just like looking at this, like, wow, like I had this overwhelming feeling of like love and like immense joy for this being in my body. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I have to like stop all the things I'm doing right away, right?
mhm,
And be good for this human. And that was sort of my journey as a mother in itself, was how can I be the best mother to this being?
mhm.
Because honestly, growing up, I didn't think I could be a mother. I told myself all the time, like, no, that's not for me because I come from this chaos and this trauma. There's no way I would be a good mom, right? But it actually kind of was the opposite, really. But it also, in becoming a mother, I also had to obviously become sober. So I started feeling all my feelings and I saw all these things coming up. Like it was simultaneously the most beautiful thing I experienced having children, the babies, and then also like really like, oh my God, like bringing the dark out because I'm like snuggling and nursing my children and like holding them and loving them, and then I would put them to bed and just be so overwhelmed with joy and love. And then I would go in my room and I found myself like crying,
Yeah.
because I was like kind of feeling for baby Monica,
Mhm.
who, anyway, it just all this stuff started coming up. I tried conventional therapy. The doctors were trying to put me on prescription medications, which I definitely would not touch because I went down that whole path actually with my mother. She was clinically depressed. And I watched these medications kind of, oof, anyway, that's another topic. But
Yeah.
so I had a strong note of that. But again, I'm sitting there like feeling all these emotions and all these feelings. It's really overwhelming. And trying to be a mother and losing sleep and having all the things and just like, whoa. And I tried the conventional therapy, like I said, and it just did not work for me. And I remember seeing this documentary. I had never heard of this before, but I saw this documentary, and there was a very, very brief moment where this man talked about ayahuasca and what it did for him. And it
Hmm.
was like the shortest part of the whole documentary. It was like he was going around the world doing all these different things, but that for some reason was so resonant and it just stuck. And I remember turning to my, at the time, husband, and I looked at him and I was like, that's what it's going to be. And he was like, yeah. But then I'm sitting there thinking, I don't have time to go to the jungle. I have two babies. I was like, oh, maybe when I'm like 40 or something, and just I'll just hang on tight till then. But within a month, and this is where I just fully understood the magic of this plant medicine, it's ayahuasca.
Hmm.
Um, there's a spirit to it, there's magic to it. And I literally looked at that. And when I decided that that's what I wanted to do, I remember I had full body goosebumps. I felt it in my soul. And within a month, it presented itself to me. I had never even heard of it, didn't know it existed, and an opportunity to sit actually presented itself to me. And I just remember thinking, if this isn't God, like, I don't know what is.
For sure.
Like I asked to sit, and then here it is. I was like, oh my gosh. So, first ceremony, wow, just so unbelievably beautiful, so incredibly hard. It was deep work. And I remember feeling like my lifelong insomnia leave my body on the second night. It felt like 1,000 burning needles coming out of my skin. And I just intuitively knew that that's what it was leaving my body.
Oh
And
man, I'm getting chills as you're talking about
I
that.
have slept every night since that ceremony. And I just remember like being on my hands and knees, just like crying in gratitude because I was just so grateful. And
Hmm.
I knew in that moment that I was crying and I was so grateful. I was like, there's more work to be done, right? For some reason in my head, I had this thought that I'd go to one ayahuasca ceremony. That's it. I'll be done. I'll be good. I'll be healed and everything will be great. And my life will go on. But no, I got called to this medicine very quickly. I knew in my heart that this was where I was supposed to be and that I was
Hmm.
going to be doing some deep work in this space. And that's kind of what kicked off like a lot of things in my life. Everything changed, everything transformed. And yeah, just here now. Now I'm talking about it in a podcast.
For sure, for sure. So now looking back at it, you've had over 100 ceremonies, right?
So, yes. And that's not for everybody. I just want to like put some emphasis on that. This medicine very much called me in, and I became of service in the space in a way that was very beautiful, very healing for me. And it was a beautiful work. And yes, when did we sit? Was it like 5, 6 years ago now?
It was right, right in the heart of COVID, I think, in 2020. Yeah, 5 years
Yeah.
ago.
So, yeah, I was sat, I don't sit as much anymore. I was sitting, working in the space for a while. I don't feel it's called anymore. But yeah, I've sat in, I kind of lost count. And I remember it was like I was counting every ceremony. And then when I got to about the upper 60s, I kind of was like, oh no, I don't remember the number. Oh my gosh, I have to. And then I was like, who cares?
Right,
Like
right.
it doesn't matter. Actually, it really doesn't matter. But I remember like up until that point, like every ceremony, it was so important to know what number I was on. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could guess close to 100-ish ceremonies, yes, that I've sat in. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's powerful. I mean, so you were called to be like a guardian in the space, right?
yeah.
Hmm.
I was doing a lot of things in the space, but yes, Guardian was one of them. Yeah, taking care of all the people that I love in the space, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience for sure.
Yeah, and for those people that don't know, ayahuasca is a plant medicine from the jungle, from the Amazon, traditionally in Peru, Colombia, Brazil. Those are the main three countries, I believe, right?
Yeah,
And it is an entheogen, so it has different effects on every person, and it's a really for those ready, it's a really powerful way to look at those shadows that you were mentioning and to really dive into those deeper aspects of self. and then there's this opening that for some people happens. It seems like when a lot of that dark shadow work is cleared out, it can happen in different ways. There's different purges that happen for people, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's all different ways to purge in ayahuasca.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and yeah. I mean, for me, uh, it was the first ceremony was all about because I did 2 nights in a row, and those were the only 2 times I've sat, and you were at both of them. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but there was, for me, the medicine came on really quickly the second night. And it
Mhm.
was to the point where there was a song that the shaman was playing. And it was like a song that was catered to, like, by doctors and different things, where they were specifically creating different binaural beats and different sounds depending on
Yeah.
where the medicine was in the hypothalamus and the pituitary, when it was where it was supposed to be traveling in the body, right? But
Right.
I was doing a lot of Kundalini yoga at the time, and it like hit me instantly. I was the first one to purge in the room, and I was just in it right away. And I remember uh, how I opened my eyes and after I purged, and I just saw the speakers releasing subtitles into the air. So
That's right.
yeah, I could see
I remember you
all
telling
the
me. Yeah.
subconscious programming coming out of the speaker of this specific song. And I remember
Yeah.
being like, whoa, this is not okay. I don't consent to all this programming. It was all really negative stuff. I don't remember what exactly it said now. I had written some of it down in my journal, but it was really intense, like really negative stuff coming out. And
Mm.
I remember saying, like, out loud, like, I don't consent to this. I don't want to, this is not okay. And so the shaman was like, you can't be screaming out like that, you know? And he took me outside, and very shortly afterwards, you came out with one of the other guardians. And I remember, like, feeling what you were experiencing, and it was really deep, and you were doing some really deep, like, healing of the planet, it felt like. And I remember I had this like flower of life glass jug with water from Mount Shasta that I had brought, and I was like, give her some of that, like, that'll really help her. And I remember one of my buddies went and got it and gave it to you, and um, it seemed like later on you expressed that after we talked after the ceremony, you were like, that really helped me. So it
So
was
much. I was sitting there like, I need water. I need water. And I was so afraid to ask for water. And then yeah, it was amazing.
it was really interesting because it was like I could feel in that space what you were, like, needing, and what was, like, what would help you, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like it was really interesting because I didn't feel that with other people in the ceremony, at least
Mm.
not at that moment. And maybe it's because we both came out outside at the same time, whatever it
Yeah.
was, but it was like that soul recognition too. Like, I had known you in previous lifetimes, and
No,
we had
for sure.
done certain, work together back then. And so it was really powerful to witness you. It was like you were, like, on the earth and just, like, praying for the earth and sending healing energy to the planet. It was really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you
It was a
remember that?
really Yeah, it was a really, really wild ceremony for me. I remember telling, I was like, please make it stop. I was like, I'm never drinking ayahuasca ever again. I was like, what? Fuck this. Like, so what happened was I got hit with everybody's stuff all at once. I felt it all come into my body, just one after the other. And I was like sitting there and I was like, and I was so overwhelmed. I was like, "Oh my God, it was too much," and I didn't know what to do with it. And she tried taking me to like different places. This beautiful woman just like walking me around, and I'm like, "No, this isn't it. Like, that's not it." And then there was this spot on the earth, and I was like, "Right here." And I don't know what it was, but it was like I was like, "It has to be right here." And I sat on the earth, and she's like, "Are you sure you want to sit there?" I found out later it's because I was sitting on like a mountain of ants, but I know, but that's where I wanted to sit. So I sat there and I remember all the energy. What I found out, I remember feeling so very big and so very small all in the same moment, in that space where I was taking all of everybody's stuff that they couldn't handle. And then I was putting it into the earth. And while I was putting that energy into the earth, I had to ground, I had to put my hands onto the earth. While I was healing that, it was simultaneously healing me and healing the earth all at the same time. And I was just like, holy shit, like this is bigger than me. This is bigger than like, like this is a collective. So when you're sitting there saying you're feeling like the telepathic things, it's like because ayahuasca really helps show us that we are one. You
Hmm.
will literally feel what other people are feeling in the space. You will purge for them if they can't handle it. Like I did all of that work for so long. And it's a really beautiful space to do that work collectively and to heal for the ascension and the healing of our planet. So it's yeah, it was a magical ceremony. I remember I was like, I'm never doing it again. And then by the end of the night, I was holding my cup like, could you please give me some more, please? Now I know what to do. So I never missed the second cup or the third
Yeah. Yeah,
anymore. Yeah,
that was, I just wanted to share that piece because that part for me was really profound. And I remember for any type of medicine, any plant medicine, intention is everything, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And for me, the first night, um, I my intention was to love myself and to love all of myself and to see where I wasn't loving myself.
yeah.
And what I remember thinking, um, like let's see, like please show me where I don't love myself, like to the medicine, right? And I remember it showed me like somebody on the sidewalk, like a homeless person that had completely like lost their mind, had gone, you know, it, the best way like it in those, at that time was like if somebody went crazy, right? Like that version of myself was like I had a lot of fear around that and I didn't have any love for myself if I were to go into that space. And it was really interesting because it was I went into that space. The medicine took me and I literally lost my mind. Like not I was just like in this state of joy and bliss, but like I didn't care about anyone around me. I didn't care about anything going on. It was just like this bliss. It felt I was just like nothing else mattered but like this joy I was feeling, right? And I remember seeing in my brain, like looking into my brain and watching my like I was in like I was stuck in a maze inside my
Yeah.
mind. And I
Mm,
remember there was a moment where I remembered that I was on the medicine and I was like, find the path of least resistance, create it, right? And I remember creating this path from, there was no way out of the maze, but I created one, like the path of least resistance out. And I even drew it in my journal. And and then as I created that way out, I was like, okay, now I know how to relate to these people that
mm,
are
mm.
in that space. And now
Wow.
I can fully love myself in that space.
Oh,
And it was like really profound. And that that night, it just like there was a cat that came over to me, like a living cat. And I remember like feeling so much love for this cat, and it like brought me
mm.
back to myself, into this
Yeah.
reality. And then I remember um, then everything started opening up. Like I could see all the people purging, everybody's journey they were on. Like everybody had different things they were working through, and I could like very clearly see what they were releasing and purging. And then the second night was the night that I just mentioned with giving you the water. And that night was the intention was different. It was like, how can I like be of service and love the whole world and everyone? And that was profound because it took me into this space at one point where I could like see the planet as like at nighttime, like everything was black, and then these lights started coming on of like these like elders and these people that were holding down the frequency of the planet, and that were
Wow.
like enlightened beings, and they popped up, and I remember Muji's voice was playing through the music, and he was one of those, and I connected with him telepathically. So it'll be hopefully I get to meet him in person in this lifetime. He's
Yeah.
for those that don't know, he's um, like a spiritual teacher, a guru that has an ashram in Portugal, and he's
Mm.
of Jamaican descent and has like dreadlocks, and he's an older gentleman and really calm, very like centered all the time. And yeah, he came through, and yeah, it was really beautiful. And then I was able to telepathically connect to my dog and like different people I loved in my life. But
Yeah.
like to rewind it, the the beginning of it all was like clearing and purging and forgiving my ex-girlfriend at the
Mhm.
time, and like releasing all I was able to feel everything that she felt in all
Mhm.
those moments when she would be upset, and like things that I would do just being me, not intending to trigger or activate her, but just like seeing her experience and all that, and
Right.
like for like crying so much, and like clearing and like asking for forgiveness, and finding forgiveness for myself, and all that really opened up the rest of the experiences. So
Right.
yeah, I would love to hear what were some of your most profound journeys or
Ooh.
most profound like takeaways. I know there's a lot, but like
Okay.
any that
Well,
come to mind.
yeah, I mean, let me start by saying, anyone listening, like when you're talking about these types of medicines and stuff, it's really hard to put into words. Like, we can talk about, oh, I telepathically connected with my dog, but like, unless you're there and you're like feeling that telepathic connection, it's kind of hard to understand. So,
For sure.
one person's journey can set you right. Like, I remember I turned into my dog in a ceremony. I was like, what the heck? But it was like really compassionate, beautiful experience. And like this medicine, it will do exactly that to you. It will show you connection. You're literally feeling, there's so much empathy and just feeling what others would feel. And that's where you kind of want to take this medicine and like shout it from the mountaintops and just everybody drink, but at the same time, again, not for everybody. But it's a powerful, beautiful medicine. And I have a lot of experiences. I've like no two ceremonies the same. If anyone's ever, sat as often as I was sitting, but the base actually of the majority of my ceremonies, it always seemed to be centered around the children around the planet. I was also shown a globe, and mine was not as beautiful as your experience. Mine was very dark. I was shown areas, it was color coded from like yellow it was green to yellow to orange to red being the most abuse, green being none. And there were hardly any spots covering the planet where there were green. And it was where children were being abused, sexually abused, um, where they were just hurting, where there was pain. And I could see this level covering our planet. And it was very early on in my ayahuasca journey that this map, this globe came to me. And I decided in that moment, like, I need to spend all of my work here praying for this and healing this. And I did a lot of my work, a lot of purging, every hape, every prayer. Let's heal the children around the planet. Like it was constant. And
That's
eventually,
beautiful.
I know, eventually, like it's deep work. I mean, I would literally be sitting there and have to like feel what a single person like had gone through, a child, and like the what it did to their bodies, what it did to their souls and their spirits. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And it gets even more wild. I won't get into all the details of like my life personally and the things that I've experienced, but a lot of the things leading through the ceremonies surrounding the children and then experiences here in the 3D world as well have really lit a fire under me into what I'll be wanting to like create for my life, this lifetime on this planet. And I really, really, I have some ideas going. I'm not going to talk too much about because when you talk about your ideas, but they're not quite there yet, I don't really want to do that. But that's been the most profound experience so far, that I could take from this journey, as seeing all of that and feeling all of that and really getting to like experience that trauma and that pain, and then having my own as well. I have my own trauma,
Hmm.
and it's been a beautiful way to navigate this planet here, because I really do feel like sexual abuse in particular is something that really gets swept under the rug, or it gets just kind of like, gosh, here we go. It get this is a deep subject for me. It's one of those things where people also feel that they can't talk about, right?
Hmm.
I had a situation. It was actually recent. It was just over in December. I was at a client's house, and it was in a situation that felt really uncomfortable for me.
Hmm.
It felt dangerous. My body didn't feel safe. And this person was trying to convince me that, like, you're not in a relationship. I'm not in a relationship. We should just, and I was just like, I felt very stuck. I felt very scared. And in that moment, I had a moment where I was like, maybe if I just give in to this, it won't be so bad. And
Mm.
that's when I realized why I was there. Because at first I was like, why am I here? And then I realized it was to receive that download, that if I would have done that, then I would have been complacent in it. But my heart and soul still would have been going through that trauma. And this is what happens actually with a lot of children and things like that, where, the groomer or the predator is kind of, you know, hey, like, we should do this. And it doesn't always have to be a violent story, and most of the time it's actually not. But then when that child is complacent, then they hold guilt and shame, and they're not able to talk about it because they think that it's their fault,
Hmm.
right? They
Yeah.
carry that in their life, and then they grow up, and then they become the addicts or the people who continue to do this type of thing. And really, ooh, yeah, goosebumps. But
Oof.
this is a dark, taking it to a dark place. But also, something that's so important that needs to be talked about is, I sat in this space and was, feeling all these things, and I'm like, oh my God, how do we stop the predators? How do we stop them? How do we stop the adults from doing this to our children? And I was like, you know what? We don't. We can't. The truth is that we can't do that. But what we can do is create a space for children to heal and to speak,
Hmm.
right? And that's where I want to be working, is to create a safe space for children to come and kind of normalize it, because really this is the real epidemic of our planet. This is happening all the time. I mean, I've literally sat in a ceremony where every single person in the room was healing sexual trauma. And I was just like, I remember in that moment, I was like, this is big. Like, this is a big deal,
Yeah.
And if you didn't go through it, somebody who went through it. Like, it's a real thing. And I feel like when we're able to bring these dark things to the light and to the table, when we're finally brave enough to speak about them, then it allows somebody else to feel brave enough to speak about it. And when we can do that and create this momentum, it helps heal, and it helps us to move, forward without guilt and shame. It helps us to understand things more. We know when we can talk about things with somebody who's knowledgeable. And that's my goal, here, in this lifetime, is to help in that way, in any way that I can. And
That's
yeah, it's just
really
that's
that's a really big mission, and it's really really beautiful because it's a huge it's a huge business. It's a huge like that there's so much of this happening around the world,
yeah,
and it's all quote unquote underground. And like I
yeah,
I remember reading some statistics, like there's billions and billions of dollars in that
yeah.
particular.
Industry, but even worse, like, it's happening in our schools, in our churches, in our dojos, and
Yeah.
where the children go
Yeah.
is kind of where the predators tend to magnetize towards, and it's just what it is. And I, from a personal experience, also witnessed something that lit a fire in me. I watched something happen to somebody that I love, and because this child would not speak to authorities and give every detail, they let it go. And they won't do anything about it.
Oh, wow.
So it's like these things don't even get reported. So it's like the numbers are way high, but they're so much higher than they're even, and it's unfortunate the way our school systems are and the way everything is being run right now is not really working in favor of our children.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a big mission, like you said. It's a really big mission. And I also think that it just takes somebody brave enough to step up and be like, hey, let's do this. And I really could feel that there would be just an army of parents behind me, like
For sure.
to help this. Everybody wants to be able to drop their child off and know that their kid is safe, and
For
there should
sure.
be, yeah, and not every predator is going to be, a registered sex offender. They can do background checks, but I feel like we need better protocols. If somebody's going to be working around our children, like we need somebody on campus who is like in depth able to really, speak to this person and see how they are and psychologically. And I don't know, I'm sure there will be leaks and stuff, but it's like we've got to do better. Whatever it is, we've got to do better.
Yeah, I just saw an image in my mind of like having some sort of counseling or a group at different schools, or like after school, like
Yeah.
something like that would be really transformational and really powerful. Even if it's just, starting it out with the parents, like meeting with the parents and being like, okay, we want to start this thing and we want to, really create a safe space
Yeah.
for the kids and then for the parents to also
Yes.
share and
Yeah.
express and
Mm.
I think that would be really, really powerful. I mean,
It's
there's
very,
there's a lot of ways to go about it, but something like
yeah.
that where
Yeah. I have a
like
lot of ideas.
normalizing it, right?
Exactly. Normalizing it, being like, oh my gosh, let's talk about this because we need to. And yeah, and also educating parents, right? Educating parents like signs to look for and things to look for because children, like I said, they don't come to you with this stuff. It's very rare if it ever even happens. I think like the age was something like it's really high before people even want to come out and talk about this stuff that has happened to them, and unless you're going to therapy and your therapist kind of like knows, like you're not really able to express it. And so, yeah, teaching parents, things to look for, ways to talk to your children, and, just they give you like little cues. They give you little signs with little things that they say or things that they do, like, mom, please don't send me to school today. Okay, let's drop in with this child and, what's going on,
Hmm.
you know, and why don't you want to go to school today?
Right.
If it's not that, it's bullying, but it's like there's something going on in your child's life instead of being like, no, Charlie, you tie your shoes. We're getting on the bus. We're going to school right now. Like, let's drop in with our kids more. Let's really like come down to their level because they have a lot going on today, like so
Mm.
much more than we did, right? I feel
Yeah.
like there's like, yeah, it's social media and I just, all the things. I'm so glad that we didn't have to deal with
I
that.
know. I know.
Nowadays, I feel like you have to like bribe your kids to go outside, and for us, it was like we really had to be like pulled back in, like.
Hmm. Right.
So it's shifted. We're in a different time, and we're trying to navigate new things. So yeah, to educate parents and in this new way of living and try to like coexist in a more balanced way, I think is really important.
With your two children now, uh, being like almost teenagers, are you um, are you noticing that bullying and things like that are better than when we were growing up? Because when I was growing up, it was pretty rampant.
No, um, my son actually. Oof, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I took them out of the last school that they were at. It was really bad actually. My youngest, and there's no reason for him to be bullied. He's like the coolest, most
He's such a
beautiful.
cool kid.
He's so dope. And I'm like, what is happening? And but what what I had to have this conversation with my kids over and over, like, don't put yourself around these people. And let's understand that that person that's bullying you is probably being bullied at home,
Right.
right? And so like to have the compassion and to recognize that, hey, these are my boundaries. I'm not going to put myself around this human being and like know that it's not me, it's
Hmm.
not personal. This has to do with them. And I think if we can teach that to kids too, like it's really vital because Liam, my youngest son, like he really struggled with, his self-esteem for a minute, and like his comment, I was like, this has nothing to do with you. Like you are amazing, and oh, it was a really rough patch actually. But the bullying, I mean, even my oldest son experienced, I mean, this is like elementary school. I
Hmm.
don't remember like experiencing like crazy stuff in elementary school, but they were going through some gnarly things. I mean, like, and I've heard, I only have teachers. We're not there yet. We're not quite to like the middle high school level. And my one son is in middle school, but it's like a combined school. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, I feel like there are still, I hear about fights. I hear about, kinds of things. And there's, yeah, there's teasing and stuff, but I don't think it's ever been any better or worse. I don't really know what to say other than I do know that right now a lot of our children are very dysregulated.
Big time.
They're not just coming from, the COVID trauma and the dysfunction, and then, we have diet that we're looking at, all these toxic foods that we're putting into our bodies. Screen time is elevated by it's just so much now, and all of combined into a small child's body, like it's really like they don't really have like a chance, like we're really like kind of robbing them of a lot of the beauty of childhood, which is just like freedom and da da da. They're in their bodies and they're just like, with
Yeah.
all these different energies and all these things that are, yeah, like holy moly, overstimulated, and that's one of the things I do want to teach in my program as well, is to teach children how to self-heal, right?
Hmm.
Like how to regulate their nervous systems, because their nervous systems are just whoosh right now. And to be able to teach them, like, maybe like a small breath work, a child appropriate breath work, or a grounding, or even like meditation. I know we're not allowed to
Meditation, I was
use that
gonna
like in
say. Yeah.
mindfulness, but like, like teaching them to like really go inward and just breathe, and to like, you know, I don't know. I feel like that's where it's at, is helping the kids. And yeah, it's where my heart lies anyway. And yeah, I don't know. I go off on all these tangents. I have ADD. I'm like, bah, 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 squirrel.
No,
But
no, it's perfect. It's perfect. I
I love
think
it. Yeah.
I think yoga and meditation, if those were incorporated into schools, the kids could really learn how to regulate
Right.
themselves and how to
Yeah.
deal with more difficult situations. Like I, in other countries, I know yoga is like offered like a gym class, like
Yeah.
it's just like part of like the warm up in in gym class, and it can there can be this transition into that very seamlessly, as long
Yeah.
as people saw how beneficial that would be for the kids and for everyone involved. Like if the staff was doing yoga and meditation too, like
Oh
that would
my
help a
God. Could you
lot.
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah. And to talk to that, because I've been to the schools, I've been to the districts, and like tried to, how can we implement this? I'm a sound healer. Can I bring sound healing into schools? Can we bring this? And it's always, there's these hard lines like that you can't cross. So
Yeah.
to speak to what you're saying, I just thought, well, why not open my own freaking school? Like why don't we start a new school? And that's created to uplift our children and bring out their differences, right? To
Hmm.
kind of highlight, where I feel like children in public schools today are, sadly, they're just like put in these boxes or in these like prison cell type classrooms with these fluorescent lights, and being told to sit still and shut up and obey, and like, not allowed to think for themselves. And that's just the reality of it. They're just sitting. And like, children are meant to explore. That's how they learn. They're meant to play, and like, yes, learning the basic things, of course, are very helpful. Math and reading, we need to know those things. And also like exploring our gifts, right? As in, could you imagine like if we knew our gifts as a child, and then like put our energy into like uplifting that, instead of saying, oh no, Jimmy, like you can't do that in this classroom, and like you're not doing well in math, like you suck, that's, here's your grade, here's your star that you're not
Hmm.
getting on your board, or whatever it is, to make the child feel small. And instead, like, we should be focusing on their gifts, right? Not every child is going to be good at math. It's just how it is, and
Right.
there's so many gifts that we're compressing because of that. So imagine a school where we could really do that, and like find, people who were intelligent enough to like recognize the gifts in children, and then like work with them to to really become like a powerful human being.
For
I don't
sure.
know. That's
Yeah.
just like my fantasy love dream of this. I would love that for this
Well,
planet, this
yeah,
life.
well, on a positive note, there are schools that are doing
There are.
this, like
Yeah, the
Montessori
Montessori
is
schools.
like
Yes, they're
like
so beautiful.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then there's that the one that was founded in Germany. I forget the name of it, where they like do a lot of crafts and nature, and they
Right.
like
Yeah,
build.
they're just the outdoor schools. I see that they're
Mhm.
so inspiring. And it's like, and like, I feel like you have to really be super wealthy to attend a lot of these schools, and I don't know how to balance all that out. But like, I mean, it would be cool to just build something or to just have something where even if it's like an after school thing, like you were saying, like some a place that children could go and express and just kind of be and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing to like have like Reiki masters come in and like
Oh my God, yeah.
tune kids, you know. Like I remember as a kid, for me, uh, this was actually one of my part of my practice was to tune into the gifts that I had as a kid and to
Mm.
really remember what I was super like passionate about and really into. Like one thing I would do naturally was I would go up to trees and animals and just start doing Reiki on them. And
Oh, wow.
I didn't know what it was. I remember feeling the warmth in my hands going up to the big tree on the playground. I remember like the animals would really love it. I was always really connected to nature and to the animals. And then, so then when I found Reiki and found what it was called, I was like, I've been doing this forever, you know? And so
Right.
those kind of gifts, and then like something as simple as like origami. I was super into origami
Right.
as a
Oh my God,
kid.
I love that.
Yeah, and like recently I've reconnected with that because for me it's so meditative, like to fold the perfect lines and to there's something to it. It's just very nourishing for my mind and my soul. And then like those kind of things like honing in on what those gifts, because there's so many star children here and coming
Oh
in
yeah.
still, and they're so tapped in, and they're so like they're some of them are having such a hard time navigating through all these external stimulations and simulations and AI and
Yes.
all the like OnlyFans stuff out there that's like
Yeah.
totally unregulated on Instagram
Oh my
and
God.
all that stuff,
They
you
have
know?
OnlyFans on Instagram?
Well, they like have the videos of them like
Oh
promoting people
no.
to link to it. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
live
So
in I live in
yeah, yeah,
I
it's a big thing. So,
like people.
and it's really I think the conversation is really good to have and to continue because with the conversations, we can start to make changes, you know?
Yeah.
And recently, the last year and a half, no, a little bit less than a year, I've been working with kids in physical therapy. So I've been working with a lot of autistic kids, a lot of Down
Oh, wow.
syndrome, a
No
lot
way.
of these kids that are nonverbal. And, for them, it's even harder because they can't express the way that you know
Mhm.
other people can. And so what's fascinating though is that technology with the iPads has given them this avenue to communicate. So
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
kids, like when we were growing up, none of that was around.
I know.
So if
Have
they
you
were
seen the
on
telepathy tapes?
what's I've so many people have told me about this, so I need
Oh, you got
yeah. Yeah,
it.
yeah. So we can talk about that. I'd love to hear your perspective on that. But yeah, so they have these iPads, and these kids that you would look at them, and back when we were growing up, they would just be put in a special needs class, and just
Hmm.
catered to. But here with the iPads, they have different buttons they can say like I want this or I want to do this.
Right.
And these kids that like you would look at them and be like, "Oh, he might not be able to communicate at all." But then they
Right.
fully
And
communicate
they do.
and
Yeah.
some of them even type out full sentences when
Oh
they
yeah.
haven't learned how to read or write yet. And it's
Hmm.
fascinating. So that piece of technology is really profound and is bridging these ways. And they are using techniques now to soothe their nervous system, like dry brushing and these different
Oh.
yogic techniques. They're using different
Ooh.
kids have different sensory needs. So some of them are oral, so they need to like chew on something to soothe their system. Other kids, they need to like stimulate their vagus nerve, so they'll take like a pool noodle and like hit their face and their chin, and that'll soothe their vagus nerve. Other kids, they need like the movement, like the bouncing on a trampoline, or like that they call it deep pressure, like hugging a ball, or like they're really looking for that connection, that like
Hmm.
hug, that deep
Right.
that deep like heart to heart feel.
Mm.
And maybe their parents aren't able to provide that for them all the time,
Right.
um,
Right.
or much at all. So then there's these other ways to give them that, and there's like weighted vests that they can wear that also gives them that deep pressure. And so yeah, that's I mean, those aspects is really cool to observe and to see that to me that's big progress from even a generation ago when we were kids. And
Massive.
and yeah, so that's really cool. And I know that they're incorporating some of that stuff in the schools, and they're doing occupational and physical therapy with the kids in the schools, where the therapists are actually coming to the schools and working with them. I know
Mhm.
some therapists that do that. So there is progress being made.
Yeah.
It's just in different avenues, but I do think that with so many people awakening and with so many people striving for that mindfulness, for that nervous system regulation, it's more and more is going to keep coming online. The more we talk about it, the more we request it, and the
Yeah.
more people like yourself come into these councils, the school council, and make those kind of votes and things like that. That's going to really start to make an impact. So, for me, my vision is when I get a piece of land with some friends in Costa Rica, we're going to start a school for the kids that are
Oh.
living on the land, where it will be very nature oriented, where you can
Mhm.
apprentice with adults on the land, like maybe somebody's a shoemaker or a silversmith, or like a healer, and these kids can apprentice and learn from them. And
Yeah.
I feel like those kind of things are just gonna. I know a lot of people that have the same vision or similar visions, and so it is happening. And I know that there are some conscious communities around the world already doing it. So it's really
Right.
cool that we're talking about it and spreading
Yeah.
and planting that seed.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to me too that you're bringing up the children on the spectrum. This is actually a really big piece of something that I'm not quite talking about yet, but something that I'm going to be working on, and I can't wait to drop in with you about that. Maybe another episode, but just because it's still in creation and all of that stuff. But
For sure.
yeah, to create a space to teach parents, right? It's not just parents of sexual abuse victims, it's parents with children with autism, it's parents with foster kids, it's parents who are in these like what the fuck do I do? Like, and to help educate them because they are dealing with a child on a different frequency in a different way. And, we're trying to navigate it as best we can. But I think our generation, yeah, we want to do better, right? Than our parents kind of did, and that's kind of how it goes. That's how evolution works. We want to grow, we want to be better, and it's nothing like, oh, like, well, back in my day we didn't have it's like, that's great that that worked for you, but like, also we want to keep evolving and keep healing and do better. So yeah, to teach in that way and to just thank you for what you're doing and holding space for children in that way. That's so beautiful. And oh my gosh, can't wait to drop in with you more about that. But yeah, there's so many, like you said, there's so many people awakening with all these, we all have these visions, we all have this passion to make the world a better place, right? Like,
For
we're
sure.
seeing it, we're like, this isn't actually sustainable anymore, so
It's not working anymore,
we got
guys.
to
Come
do something
on.
about
We're not
it this
training the
way.
kids to go work in a coal mine and sit, work in a
No,
factory.
we're not
So
soldiers. Oh, thanks. Yeah.
yeah, we're doing a whole different perspective, but that aspect of the school system, the history of it, like it's still run like it was way back in the day, where the kids were being trained to be these very subservient, very obeying citizens
Yes.
that
Yes.
are going to be great factory workers
Yeah. To
for
prepare them to
Ford
sit
and
in
for all these
and
things,
make
you know?
it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big thing, especially now that there's so much internet money out there and there's so much ways to make an income and so many different avenues. And the cool thing is like I'm seeing all these young kids, like high schoolers, middle schoolers, like making crazy money on crypto and all that kind of stuff
Oh
where,
my gosh.
you know,
I know.
they're just going with it. They're just like, all right, I want to do this and let's do it. So
Yeah.
you know the cool thing about the generation of your kids and their kids coming is like they already know what they're here to do. Like our generation is more of like the clearers of the space, and those kids are already like doing the things, and then we're just kind of like clearing the stage for them
Yeah.
to eventually come on there and
Yeah.
shine their light. So I love, I love seeing, some of my friends here, like, I love the way that they're raising their kids and giving them, like, I have one of my buddies, he brings his son to the men's circle, and his son's like 4 years old, and like,
Wow.
it's so cool to
Great.
like and he's like a little Tarzan, like he just wants to run
Yeah.
around and
They
wrestle.
are. They're cavemen. They come out as cavemen. You got to kind of teach them to be a little civil. That's how it is.
Right, right. And so it's so good for him to like see that these men that are like aware and wanting to better themselves, how
Mm.
he's seeing how they're navigating and how it's okay to like sit and talk in a calm way and to converse and listen, like all those aspects are so important, especially for the young men, the young
Oh,
boys,
oh yeah.
because they have
Oh
so
yeah.
much energy and they don't know what to do with it, and in the schools it
Energy.
seems like they don't have
No, they're
enough
told that they're
exercise.
bad. Yeah, and then the thing is too, a kid, it was like blows my mind. Is like if a kid can't sit still in class, then they get in trouble and can't go to recess. I'm like, why don't you send little Jimmy out to run some laps and
Right,
then come back? Like I don't know. I feel like there's a better way than to like make them sit even more.
right, right. Yeah,
Right. It's like you're only punishing yourself, but I don't know.
yeah,
Anyway, that's just
yeah.
my own 2 cents from having boys myself. It's like I always noticed when we actually got them outside, which had to be every single day. Otherwise, it was more for me, right?
Hmm.
Like get them outside, let them run, let them get dirty and play. And
Yeah,
then they come in and they're like, you know,
yeah, yeah,
otherwise climb everything in your house and they're gonna, you know what I mean? Like that's just how it is.
yeah, yeah, for
Mm.
sure. And yeah, so I would love to hear your perspective on the telepathy tapes and
Oh,
what like like yeah, let's start just like with the bare bones for the listeners not familiar with it, and then grow from there.
so I'm actually not super familiar with that. I only listened to one episode with a couple of my girlfriends, but
Okay.
it was just like holy smokes! Like I mean, my jaw was on the floor. These children are operating at a different frequency, and a lot of society has looked at somebody with autism or on the spectrum as maybe like down here, when really they're like up here.
Big
Like
time.
their brains are just operating different frequency. And like, so again, like I was talking about the schools to be able to like tap into like their gifts, and to like see this, you find the ways that soothe them. Yes. And also teach them how to regulate. This is for all children, right? Teaching children how to regulate their nervous systems. And, it's mind blowing to me that these children, they were actually able to like to communicate telepathically and like I won't get too much into it because like I said I only listened to the one episode and but it was really beautiful to hear that there were ways that they were able to start communicating like you were saying they were using like the iPads and the things and they were communicating these full things and these parents were just like in tears because they had no idea
Hmm.
all of this like lived inside their child and
Hmm.
I personally have a friend I have a friend who had a son who was diagnosed autistic, and she went down the dark rabbit hole of, like vaccination and all the things like that. And she detoxed her kid who was nonverbal. He was drooling. He was like, like hurting himself. Like he was free. And it was for like years. And she did a heavy metal detox, a chelation therapy, and, healed him with holistic foods and things like
Wow.
that. And I've had conversations with this boy. You would never know he was even on the spectrum.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that that's like going to be the case for everybody, but to understand too that like we have all these like toxins in our bodies, and like, that some children are so sensitive. My children are sensitive.
Hmm.
And like, you know, to be able to like remove some of that is also very helpful,
Yeah.
in a really big way. And, being mindful of what they consume, what they eat, what they watch, all the things that affect their frequency, because especially when you're operating at that high frequency like that, it's actually even more vital and more important that you are so careful about what goes into or onto your body. And yeah, but I watched this.
Okay, so we we're talking about how the parents would really benefit from being educated on ways
Yeah,
to help the kids and how to
absolutely.
navigate. And yeah, so the in the telepathy tapes, what were they actually, they were talking about this actual telepathy that the kids were
Yeah,
having, right?
they were actually weren't using the technology. I mean, they were able to communicate with the technology, but in the tapes and in the findings, they were like studies from, I don't remember when they were from, but like what I gathered was that they were actually tapping into their children's like ESP gifts, like psychic abilities and things like that, which these children are operating at such a high frequency that that's what they have.
Hmm.
And yeah, so again, I would love to dive into it more. I don't know as much about it as I would like to know, but it was super fascinating to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and from another episode and from another couple of people I've talked to about the telepathy tapes, it seems as though the kids all go to this space, like another dimension almost, or another part of reality where they all meet up there and they're able to like
Yeah.
talk to one another.
Yeah, exactly. They're able to like communicate. I'm just like, what? Yeah, I have to listen to it, but
Yeah, I do
it's so
too. Yeah.
yeah, it's so good. And yeah, I know it sounds like totally insane to anybody who probably hasn't done, but when you understand frequency and you understand, that there are other realms that we're working in and working with, like it's more of like, of course,
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's profound. It's really profound, and I think that in particular is just giving these kids like a totally new
Hmm.
perspective that
Yeah.
adults and other kids can like connect to, and then it's
Yeah.
giving, because these kids are so advanced and evolved, their
Mhm.
DNA strands are much more advanced and online.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because of that, yeah,
I
it's
know.
it's
Yeah.
profound.
I
So
remember seeing that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
and you were talking about your friend who uh healed her kid with the
Mhm.
heavy metal detox and things like that, and there's so many studies where these parents are on these vlogs and blogs and out there saying like my kids were starting to talk, my kids were developing
Yeah.
normally, and then I gave them some sort of shot or vaccine,
About the six
and
month mark. Yeah.
and then
Hmm.
and then after that they just became autistic, and or they
Hmm.
or they stopped communicating or those kind of things. So that gives a lot of hope that if that's what brought it on, then clearing out those things from their body can have the opposite effect.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, it's like it's such a crazy topic to talk about these types of things because people are very like hard one way or the other, right? But I'm
Yeah.
kind of like in this middle where I vaccinated my first son, and he got really sick. And I spent years like detoxing his body. He still has some issues. And, unless you're like really paying attention, and that's what I mean by like dropping in with your kids and really listening, because he was getting all these rashes on his body. And I was like, where is this coming from? And they tell you allergies, you're feeding your kids something shitty, and they put it on you. And you're
Right.
like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? And nope. So anyway, when we were able to like detox all the things, he stopped having the rashes, he stopped having the issues. He still has some like things, but it's not nearly as intense as it was. And when you're seeing other parents who are doing these detoxes as well, because what's happening is these things are the heavy metals, they just continue to accumulate. They're not
Yeah.
actually able to be expelled from your body unless you take them out yourself.
Hmm.
And so they can cause some serious damage if you're not, if you're going to be vaccinating, that's fine, but you need to also be detoxing the heavy metals from your
Hmm.
child as well. So that's like my 2 cents on it. And just, yeah, I won't get too much into that topic because that's a whole can of worms to,
For sure, for sure.
but,
Well,
but yeah,
yeah,
it's
it makes me think about when I was a kid, and they made us have certain shots for school,
yeah,
and I remember always, like not always, but often getting sick with like a continuous sinus infection, like all the
oh,
time as a kid.
absolutely.
And I remember I would have these random allergies. Like I remember I started getting allergic to bananas and lemons and like things that I like shouldn't be allergies. Like
None of that is fucking normal. That's the
r-
thing. All these things are like normalized. And I'm like, no, your child should not be allergic to bananas. Like,
right, right. And
no.
I remember like feeling like there's something really off with this. And I never
Mhm.
made the connection like until later in my life. But when I was in college, I did I did a detox myself by just running and sweating every day for like a couple of years. And
Yeah,
by doing that, like 30 minutes on the elliptical every day, I cleared out all my allergies.
that's amazing.
And
Yeah, you
and
can clean,
they
you can do
all
it.
went away. And
Mhm.
I mean, except for like certain
Right.
pharmaceuticals, I still get a rash.
Right.
But what the rash is, for people, you know, may not realize, is that the rash is the body trying to clear and remove that from the lymphatic system.
Expelling all the toxins. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so if there's some sort of rash, it's the body trying to clear something. And thank God
Mm.
now I've found all these different plant medicines, and like combo has been a huge one for me to
Yeah.
clear out a lot, which is like a frog poison that you put um, onto a little burn on your skin,
It's a
and
frog secretion. Yeah. It's beautiful plant medicine.
it's beautiful.
Warrior
Yeah,
medicine.
really
Yeah.
intense most of the time, but it
Yeah.
also can be it clears out a lot.
Yeah.
And I really that medicine really has helped me throughout for those kind of clearings. And
Yeah.
nowadays there are different parasite cleanses and different heavy metal detoxes with natural ingredients, like
Yeah.
all fully organic from the earth kind of
Yeah.
ingredients, not
I'm
just
doing
like
one right
quote
now.
unquote natural, right?
Yeah. I'm on a parasite cleanse right now. It is wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing one
It's
now too, and
I know, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really changing a lot for me. I'm getting more energy back.
Same.
I feel way better. I feel way
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Me
And
too. Ready.
it's profound. It's really profound how, you know, there is hope, and there is ways to come back from these things. And
Absolutely.
yeah, one of the people
Touch
that
from
I
anything.
really admire is Dr. Sebi. Do you know about
Okay.
him?
I don't.
Oh man, he's worth looking up. He's already passed away, but
Mm.
he was kind of going against all the pharmaceuticals. He was like treating and healing HIV. He was
Yep.
treating Lyme and healing Lyme's disease, AIDS, all these crazy viruses and different things in society that are supposedly uncurable.
Yeah, yeah, they're deemed as like, oh, well, you're stuck with it. And yeah, no, I've witnessed this as well. Like in the community that we're in the plant medicine world, you're watching people heal these things, these autoimmune things, these, these crazy ailments that we're told, like you said, are not treatable, and
Hmm.
they're healing them.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Really
even,
answers the
I mean,
question.
it's profound. I have an episode with my buddy Jeremiah where he completely healed his OCD
Oh, yeah. I
with
I had OCD as well.
yeah, he completely healed it with plant medicine with
I did
um,
too.
iboga. And
Oh, yeah, that's a
yeah,
powerful one.
yeah, and I mean, it that episode was really interesting to hear his story and to see how he navigated through that because it's things that we don't think about as being able to be healed and treated completely from us.
They medicate you, right? And it's like the thing about medication is there are some people, yes, who probably really need it. They have the imbalances and stuff, but majority of the people being put on these medications, it's like you're driving your car and your oil light comes on, right? And instead of getting your oil changed, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to snip the wire to my oil light. And now the light's off, so my brain feels better. But like what's happening underneath is actually much more detrimental,
Hmm.
right? You're not actually taking care of it, and it's just festering and getting worse. And I watched this happen with my mother. I watched her go from like this beautiful being to just having like the light sucked out of her. And she tried to take her life a few times. And I know it was the medication because it wasn't her, it was never her. And like just we read about the things happening in our schools and all the majority of the time these people doing these things they're medicated and they're on these medications and they're really affecting us in a way that we have to really step back and say, okay, hey, hold on a minute.
Hmm.
Like let's look at this again. Let's come at this from a different, perspective maybe, or try something else because this doesn't seem to be helping everybody in
Hmm.
the way that it's, you know. And yeah, not to get too much into that because I know there's so much controversy around that, but that's my personal experience with it and watching my own mom, try to take her life more than once. And it was like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And that's where, the forgiveness and all this stuff comes in because, we're also told that we choose our lives before we come. And I remember growing up, I used to hold a lot of anger towards my mother. She would drink all the time and she would take these medications and she was just like, ugh, like it was really challenging growing up with her. There was a lot of abuse there and a lot of neglect and just a lot of things. And she was just like barely hanging on though, right? Like she's holding on for dear life. And, so when I grew up and I understood that this is, she chose to do all of this so that I could choose differently on my path. And I
Exactly.
really strongly, firmly believe that. I think that she chose this life and like hell on earth to be trapped in this way so that I could see that and step back and be like, you know what? I'm going to heal that shit. I'm here to break that. This we're done with this. This is
Hmm.
not working for our generation. It's not working for my family line anymore. And yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah. But yeah, that's where a lot of the forgiveness came for me. It was just realizing that my parents were really just doing, they were doing the hard work.
Yeah.
Really hard work. And, and that I'm here to break the pattern, which is also hard work. And
Hmm.
so that way our children can have a better life, and like I said, it's evolution. We want to be better. We want to continue to grow.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And it also makes me uh, think about a different topic, which maybe you can speak on in that space of the ayahuasca and it kind of ties in some of these things where in moments of trauma and in moments of really intense stress um, and these kind of things, the soul can like leave the body in those moments, especially sexual trauma and things like that, and then it opens up this this like little energy for entities to come and
Mhm.
attach
Yes.
and so you know even like different medications they all carry a spirit with them.
Yes,
And
thank you.
and
I had
and so
literally,
I'm really curious on your experience with that, with seeing, sitting in so many ayahuasca journeys and like seeing different people clearing these things from them. And like I know when I sat, I could see these dark beings sitting
see them
behind
too.
people.
Yeah, yeah. I could see them in it, even not in a ceremony. I've been pretty tapped in since I was like a child.
Mhm.
I've seen things and just been like, what's wrong with me? Like I had no idea. Now that I'm in this world, I know that that's just my frequency and part of my gift, actually. But I was at my mom's house actually, and I was laying on the couch, and this was before I did medicine, and I was insomniac, and she gave me one of her sleeping pills. And I was like, well, I guess I'll try it because it was like my third night of not sleeping. And so I tried it, and in that evening, I literally saw this dark being like across the room. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm awake and I'm aware, but I was like half in this like dream state because of this medication. And then like I would like try to go to bed and I would open my eyes and it was like a little bit closer. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, what is happening? And so then I start going into that super low vibration where I'm like panicking, full of fear and all the things. And then it's like in my face. And I saw its face. I saw like it's like it was an entity that I just was like, wow, this is real and this is like here. And I know that it was part of like that medication and like that lower frequency and that vibration. And I was like kind of like pulling that in. And I think that when I was drinking a lot of alcohol as well, like that's the same type of thing. You're allowing yourself to open up to these darker entities and these spirits that are like sucking onto like these low vibrational, beings because they like don't have anywhere else to go. And yeah, I'm super grateful. That's one of the more things I'm really grateful for is kind of clearing all of that on my journey, but also being witness to other me watching these things. It's like it's magical. It's so healing, and like to watch these things fall away and to watch people continue to raise in their vibration where these things can't actually like attach to you anymore is very freeing, very beautiful place to be.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you mentioned that because during that second night of my ayahuasca journey, I remember being in such an ecstatic place of unconditional love that
Mhm.
like I could feel that like I couldn't see any of those entities anymore, and it was just this like overwhelming love that like nothing could permeate. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I really could sense how love is the highest frequency, and
Yes.
literally nothing can penetrate that when we're up there and in that space. It was really profound to go from seeing these entities to like fully being like in like the Shipibo patterns all around, and which is like these designs that the Shipibo pattern people use on their art from Peru.
Right.
And
Yeah.
literally the whole room was lit up with different colors in these Shipibo
Oh,
patterns.
it's so beautiful, right? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, to be in that frequency of love after you've done the work all weekend and then you're just like, "Phew," like, like what a beautiful gift. And yeah, that's just that literally brings me to my hands and knees in like gratitude. Just I love that medicine through my soul. It's a beautiful space.
Yeah, and I mean, it's I was kind of the same way as you as a kid. I would sometimes hear like a knocking in my closet, or like, I'd
Oh,
wake
oh
up
yeah.
wake up with something going on in the attic. I had like different um, spirits come to visit me, but
Yeah.
that was when I was like in middle school and I was going through a lot, like
Yeah.
that time is
Right.
really tough for
Yeah, it
most
really
kids.
is. I know. And I actually would see beings. I would see things. I remember three different times when I was younger, I saw ETs standing in my doorway. And I
Mm.
always knew when they were coming because I would wake up and I would be like paralyzed and I'd be in my bed and I would just be sitting there and like I couldn't move. And then these beings would just like appear in my doorway and they would just stand there and stare at me. And I knew that they weren't going to hurt me, but I felt like they were like observing me. And I'm sitting there like, I have lost my mind. Like I'm like, what's wrong with me, right? And then now, of course, I know better, but like I think they're friends.
Right.
But yeah, but like, when you're a child, you're like, this is a lot. And I remember seeing like different spirits and like things like that. That's remember when we went into the room after the ceremony, I was like, there's something here. And that was like the
Yeah.
first time I had experienced that since I was a child, because you kind of turn it off, right?
Hmm.
Like we have if we don't tap into our gifts and like understand them, then we go into the fear and we turn it off. And so that was the first time actually I had opened that back up, since I was a child, was when we were there. And I was like, there's a woman here. She was like, she was really trying to communicate something, but I was like my first time. So I was like, I don't know what to like, this is scary. Now I'd be like, what's your name?
Yeah.
Where you at? What do you need?
What's going
How
on?
can I help
Yeah.
you? How can I help you? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's wow. Yeah. And
I
it's
had
crazy.
I had an experience in Ocean Beach when I was living there for 3 months in California, and I had a roommate um, who I didn't know before I moved in. It was just like a room was available in the house, and I was like, okay, let me try it out. And what's interesting is that there's a way that the spirits can communicate through electronics.
Yeah,
And
they do.
And so for what was happening then was the electric toothbrush would go off. And so like it was only like I remember my roommate telling me at the time like, yeah, the electric toothbrush went off today during the day and it's just battery operated, right? And I was like, okay. And then I'm like, I think something's trying to communicate with you. And then we tapped into it, and it turned out that because it went off again, me and her were just like watching a show in the living room or hanging out, and the toothbrush went off. And I'm like, okay, it's time to see who it is and let's talk
Yeah.
to him because it's clearly not trying to communicate to me, but I'm just like a vessel to help you communicate to them, right? And I
Right.
had
Yeah.
I had these cards at the time where you could communicate with the other realms. They were like
Hmm.
angel cards, but
Yeah.
with different messages, right? And so there was like answers on the cards, like yes, or I'm going through
Yeah.
this, or I'm sending you love, or whatever. And so I pulled out the cards, and I'm like, I got an intuition. I was like, I think it's like somebody that has passed on, and I believe like who would want to communicate with you? And she's like, I think it's my ex-boyfriend who took his life.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, okay, let's talk to him. And he, through the cards, communicated to her like, none of this was your fault.
Oh.
This was my choice. I
Yeah.
I chose to do this. Like you didn't do anything to
Mhm.
play a role in me taking my life. And it was like really liberating for her and
Yeah.
really profound because after that the toothbrush stopped going off and she had a very
Something.
emotional release and was able to clear that. And
Mm.
um, so that was really profound. And so on the like opposite spectrum though, when we open up to these gifts, other really high and it all depends on our vibration. So when my
Yes.
vibration went up around my awakening, I actually was able to connect and actually visually see my guardian angel.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if I've shared this on the podcast yet, but it was really profound. I'm laying in this dark basement at my parents' house. I was just staying there for a couple of months before I was moving, and
Yeah.
and I'm laying in my bed, and I see this little bright blue light in like in the other end of the room, and I'm a little like, "What's this?" Right? And it's like a
Yeah.
little blue orb, and I get this telepathic message like, okay, what's look up this name. And at the time I had Facebook. So I went on Facebook and I looked up this name. It was like nobody I knew, just a random name. I looked it up and the Facebook image was this book that was open and all it said on like both pages in big letters
Ooh.
was love.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, so this being is coming with love, and like I'm getting a little bit some sort of emotions coming up around it because it was so beautiful,
Yeah.
and so the next night I wasn't scared anymore. I knew this being was coming with love, and I actually at the time was really looking to connect with my guides and connect with the angels, and I was calling that in. And so the second night, I see the blue light again just for a brief second, but then from this blue light just opens up this
Mm.
majestic, like huge wings, all different colors, like rainbow translucent, like flowing through. And then there's like this flower of life pattern, almost like the sacred geometry going through it. There's no like there's no face. It's just these big wings with this translucent um, body, and it was like a true light being. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, okay. And she told me her name, and she was like, I'm your main guardian angel, and we
Oh my gosh, you got to
connected.
meet your guardian
Yeah,
angel.
it was really beautiful. And I, at the time, I was going through this exploration with the twin flame journey. And I was
Uh,
really trying to get some more clarity on that. And it turns out that she actually is one of the main angels that works with the twin flame energy and with the twin flames. And
wow.
because I looked up her name on Google, and it was like her name hails from like some Greek mythology and things like that, and that this angel in particular was working with twin flames and that energy, and
Right.
it was profound. I was like, wow, okay, and like every day now I connect with her and I send her love, and since then I've learned integrated energy therapy, which is a type of um, energetic healing that works with a team of nine angels.
Yeah.
And I have an episode one actually is all about this technology of integrated energy therapy working with the angels.
Right.
And I had my teachers that attuned me on that episode, but it taught me how to connect with the angels and really send love to them, and they send love to me, and then through me I can send love to everyone I love and to the planet. And so it was really profound now with those tools to be able to communicate with her and connect with her and have her be one of my guardians and guides. So,
Yeah.
have you
It's
had any
beautiful.
experiences with light beings?
Absolutely. I mean, I have like different versions. Like in ceremony, there was always a man and a woman that would be like feathering me that I felt were kind of like ancestors. And I've had like light presence, like in my, in my prayers and my meditations and things like that. Absolutely. Um, but to speak to actually seeing something, I think I saw one of my guides one time. I have visions, and I have like they're not super frequent, but when they do come, they're very powerful. I've had premonitions. I've had visions of things that were happening in real time. And it's sometimes hard for me to decipher, what order the visions are coming in and, what it is. But I had one in particular, and I can always tell the difference between like a regular dream and a vision because it's a very different frequency. And I'm actually like aware that I'm having a vision, that I'm dreaming, and that I'm there. And there was one where there was this man who was taller, he was thinner, he was native, he had long black hair, and he was wearing jeans and like a tank top, and he had this like braided thing like in his hair, super handsome, like younger, and I could tell it had passed on. And this was like when all the things were going on in my house, and like there was just so much, it was just really dense.
Hmm.
It was a tense period, the things were happening with my sons in the schools, and I was going through a big transition of going through divorce and all the things. And this, like, he felt like a guardian angel to me. And he walked up to my door and he looked around. He's like, "Why is everybody so serious around here right now?" And I remember thinking, huh. And then he goes, "I think there's a piece of glass around here somewhere." And then and then it was done. And I remember thinking like, what? Like I literally jumped out of bed and I like ran outside where he was standing behind my glass door. And I was like looking for this piece of glass, like for confirmation, right? Like I'm like, where's this piece of glass? Where's this glass? And I'm literally sitting in a ceremony like the next day. And I don't find anything. And I was like, oh man. And then the next morning, as I'm packing up all my stuff to go to ceremony, on the inside of my door where he was standing, there's a big piece of glass.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, holy shit. Like it's I'm just, I don't know, like anyway, I feel so loved all the time. Like all the things that happen to us in this life, even the things that like rip us open and feel so hard. It's like everything, you're always like held in so much love by your angels and your guides. And all of it is for our evolution, for our growth, right? So that we can actually keep becoming like the best human being that we're intended to be here, to show up and do these things like help the children and help the planet, and all the things that we're here to create, and all the dark things that I've gone through in my life, all the things my children have experienced, like have all been here to like teach me that, what I need to do, how I need to show up, and, how to do it from a more healed place, if you will. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really beautiful. And I'm curious, what do you know what that piece of glass, was there any meaning to it, or was it just to show you to clean it up?
I think he was just warning me about it because I was leaving
Mhm.
for the weekend, and then one of my kids could have like stepped on it. Like it was
Mhm.
a big piece of glass.
Mhm.
And, I just threw it away. Maybe I should have kept it, but like put it on my altar. But I threw it away and I was like, oh my gosh, like because the day before when I was outside searching where he was standing, I was like, oh, kind of like meh. Like, oh, it wasn't a vision, maybe. And then when I found it the next day, I was like, there's the confirmation. And like it was so beautiful. Like just to feel that love and that protection, and to realize that we needed to like lighten things up in the house a little bit, because everything was so serious. And I was like, we need to have more play, more fun, and more love and joy. Like we can still do that even in the dark, hard times. We can still choose joy and love and that frequency. And so it was a beautiful message. And yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
What So I'm really curious, and for maybe people that are trying to differentiate between a dream and a vision, could
Mm.
you speak a little bit into that? Like, I know you mentioned it's a different frequency, but is there any way to, like, for me, I'll just give a quick example. I've had visions like just randomly throughout my day.
Yeah.
I'll like one time was back in 2017. I was um, just working on a patient in physical therapy, and it just like hit me. It was like time didn't exist. And I just saw this like timeline of my child that hasn't come into this reality yet, but
Yeah.
I saw this vision of him, and the life that he was going to have, and what he was going to look like, and all these things, and it was kind of like time stood still. I saw this like whole um, timeline of his life and what he was going to be doing for the earth. And then I kind of just like but it lasted like a couple of seconds in reality, but
Right.
it was like this whole journey I went on in a matter of seconds. And so yeah, how do you ever receive visions like that, like when you're wide
So
awake?
not when I'm wide awake. Mine there's three different types that I receive. So I think I'm being communicated by three different types of beings.
Hmm.
And when I'm being communicated by the ETs, it's a really like I get like this high pitch ringing in my ear. I'm literally like outer like I remember like it was right when I laid down, it was like poof, and then I was like thrown into it. I felt like I didn't even fall asleep yet. Like I was just, and then I was in the vision, and they were like, they sat me up and I could see my body behind me, and I was like, okay. And they were like, do we have permission to show you? And I said, yes. So there always is like a granting of permission. And then I'm kind of like being shown like a projector screen. These are the premonitions, um, where different pictures will come up in different things, different scenarios, little quick clips of like video type. It looks like I'm watching a movie,
Hmm.
on this projector screen while this like intense high pitch ringing is happening in my ears. and my entire body feels like it's like vibrating, and I'm just sitting there and like receiving. And these are the premonitions that I've seen them, that we're living in them now, like in real time. So I don't doubt them for 1 minute. And I've also had visions where it very much feels like grandmother medicine. And these visions I can tell are a different frequency because it's similar to the visions that I have in the space, and I can feel her presence, if you will.
Mm.
Grandmother medicine always communicates to me with her hands. I talk a lot with my hands in case anybody hasn't noticed, but like she's always, it's never verbal. It's always like, and I can always understand what she's saying, where it's like, no, yes, like, blah, 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 whatever it is.
Mhm.
And that's how she communicates with me in my visions. So I know that it's her. And then I have other visions, which are entirely different. Like the one that I explained with my guardian angel, where they're just really vibrant and fully in color. And I can feel, again, I always know that I'm in the vision. That's the difference between like a regular dream for me and like, where I know that I'm there to like receive a message, and I understand that I'm in the vision, and then the vision happens. And it's also, it feels like a different frequency, with all the colors and all the things that are coming in as well. They're very vivid, very strong, and they feel very real, where my regular dreams are just like all weird and all over the place. What was that? Yeah, I guess that's like, again, I feel like these types of things too are so sacred and so personal that they could be different for everybody. So I know that speaking to these types of experiences might not it's not, you're not really able to get everything across in the way that you can like hold it in your own being. But yeah, that's like the best that I could do with that, I guess.
Yeah, no, that I think that brings up, some clarity around it for sure because it sounds like they're more vivid. They're very clear. There's no like um subconscious aspects or these like chaotic random events happening. It's like very clear of like, okay, this is happening and it like may feel really real probably in the experience, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it feels very real. And yeah, it's been a journey with the visions and things like that, because I've also had to really sit and ask myself, okay, is this a vision, or is this like some trauma like clearing itself out too?
Mm.
Things like that. And but also it comes to it, every time almost every single time that I've doubted myself and done that because somebody else told me, no, that didn't happen, or no, that's not what I did, because I was being warned about something. um I would go into this space of, oh, maybe this is my trauma,
Hmm.
and then it would be true.
Hmm.
So it comes down to really just going inward all the time and just trusting our intuition, and trusting that the messages that we receive are there to help us, whether it's whether it is 100% factual. I doubt. I tend to notice that my guides and angels like to exaggerate the situation too, like let's make it extreme so you really pay attention,
Hmm.
but also it's there and it's real and it's teaching us. And yeah, I am very grateful for all of it and the gift that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really it's interesting for me to kind of look back on my life and to see it hasn't happened very often, but when it does happen, there's just like this knowing and like this depth to it for me. Like, okay, this is something really important. Like I remember I mentioned about how eventually having the land in Costa Rica and starting a conscious community down there. And that wasn't something that I just wanted to do. It was a vision that came to me. And it was really clear. Like I could see the ocean, I could see what the houses looked like, I could see the people that were there and the certain people in my life that I knew at the time that were going to be there. And and then what was interesting was like I also had like a little bit of like, okay, was this just kind of like something I imagined? And then I remember going to see one of my friends who's very psychic, and I did a session on her, like a healing session, and she, without me sharing anything with her, she told me exactly the same vision.
Yeah. Yes. I have the same experience with a psychic that I got a reading from. Do you know Cody and Tanya?
Yeah.
Love them so much. They got me a reading for my birthday, and it was with this blind man from England, and he was
Wow.
incredible, right? And I didn't tell him a thing. And
Right.
he knew about all of it. He knew about my vision, about he was like, you have to do this. He was like, you have to do this. And it was actually recently I received a vision at one of my dear friend's wedding. We had this like camp out. It was so beautiful on his land, and this land was very special. I could feel it. And when I woke up, it was like probably like 4:35 a.m. And I was awake, and I started receiving all these downloads about the next steps of what I'm going to be doing. And it was just like, I mean, it's so beautiful and so magical. So yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. I'm here for the ride. I'm so excited for this, all the all the light workers that are doing this work and all the things that we're going to be creating. And yeah, just my heart really, really, really lives with, helping our children and making this place better for them, because that's where we're at. Like we said before, it's not sustainable the way that we've been doing it. We've got to change some things. We've got to really look at things differently.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
Monica, it's been such an honor to have you on. We
Yes.
we covered a lot of really beautiful things, and
Yeah.
you're always welcome back on the podcast. And I think we could talk about a lot more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and once these visions and once these dreams come into reality, I would love to hear about all the different things that you're creating for the
Absolutely.
kids, and
Yeah.
I'd love to support in any way with that as
Yeah.
well.
I have a feeling